Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Cozy Christmas podcast. Merry Christmas. Today's the big day. I'm just so looking forward to this moment, to this day, to the celebrating that will be going on. And yeah, the gifts, I'm not going to lie. I like a good Christmas present as much as the next guy. And I've asked for a lot of books this year. I'm looking forward to a good Christmas book haul. So we'll see what Santa brings me. A couple of things. I've got a great interview today with actor Robert Peterpaul. He also hosts the podcast, the Art of Kindness podcast. He's been on the show before, and I was so excited to have him be able to come back on. We can talk about kindness and Christmas time and enjoy just a very relaxing and restful conversation that I hope this afternoon or sometime over the next week you're able to listen to this, and maybe you've stuffed yourself silly with Christmas cookies or ham or turkey, whatever it is you eat for Christmas. I hope you got a lot of it. And if everything goes right, my plan today is, of course, on Christmas Eve night. Well, my wife and I, we enjoy fondue after the kids go to bed. She puts some hot oil in the fondue pot, and we fry up little pieces of chicken and steak. And we have some seasonings we dip it in. We have Christmas cookies we eat. It's just a really quiet way to relax and unwind after a crazy year. Following that, before bed, I'll probably spend a few minutes in quiet reflection in the living room, maybe listening to some Christmas music with the room lit only by the Christmas tree. And then I love to spend just a couple of minutes outside right before bed, as close to midnight as I can. I like to do that. I always say it's because there's just a certain stillness in the air that you don't get on any other night of the year. There's this sense of anticipation that I feel everyone is experiencing. But it also could be because I'm hoping to catch a glimpse of the big guy himself, One of these days, I'm going to see Santa flying around. And believe me, that's going to be a scoop. I will be sure to talk about it on a podcast. And then Christmas morning, I'm sure I'll beg my wife that we let the kids sleep in so that we can experience a few quiet moments on Christmas morning. But undoubtedly, our kids will be up, or at least Gracie will be up. And my dog will, of course, get us up if we sleep too late. She jumps in the middle of the bed and gets us out of bed. And then, we'll probably still let all the kids sit on the stairs and have to wait. Mom and Dad can go downstairs to see if Santa came. But really, it's, we're going to get our morning coffee going because we need coffee for Christmas. As much as I love the holiday, boy, you need that cup of coffee. So then we'll come downstairs. We'll before we get even into the stockings, we'll probably sit around the Christmas tree and read the Christmas story from the Gospel of Luke. It's such a powerful reminder that there's at least for us, what we believe, there's a deeper reason for why we're celebrating Christmas. And we want to take a minute to acknowledge that. But then, we'll get into the stockings. Yeah, in years past, I don't usually get too many things in my stocking anymore. I guess I'm an old man, but usually Santa brings us a new ornament for the year with some kind of accomplishment on it or something, something to remind us of this past year. Speaking of which, a listener, Angela, she sent me a beautiful ornament that it's printed, God blesses everyone on the ornament. It has some kind of Victorian style decorating on it. It's a quote from A Christmas Carol, of course. I really love that ornament. It's so beautiful and it's so meaningful. Angela, thank you for that. That was very kind of you to send that. And it brought a big smile to my face. And then before we dig into the pile of presents, we have to have breakfast. I make French toast. Katie Wilbert, the guest who was on just a couple weeks ago, sent me her recipe for those cinnamon rolls. So I might make those for Christmas morning too. Maybe I'll make those for Christmas Eve, actually. That sounds really good. So we'll sit around the table. We'll enjoy a leisurely breakfast. We don't want to rush the day. Let's enjoy the moment. So the way we do it, we hand out one present at a time, and one person at a time will open a present. And my wife tries really hard to make sure, like if one of our kids opens a present, that the next kid who opens it will have something similar to it, and it builds up from, the smaller presents to the large presents. She really makes it linger and last. And we can just spend, 2 or 3 hours opening presents, not because we have so many, but, just because we take time. And if we need to take a break, we do that. We go make fresh coffee. We can do that. Sometimes family will call. We'll stop and talk with family. We just don't want that to be over so quickly. Because we say it's not about the presents, but there is also something about, finishing up the presents that kind of brings that one thing to a close. This big moment at Christmas has been brought to a conclusion. We will probably have some kind of Christmas late lunch, early dinner in the afternoon. It'll very likely be spiral ham. My wife loves to make that glazed spiral ham. To her, that's Christmas. She loves having that. Lots and lots of cookies. We might watch a Christmas movie that day. It might be It's a Wonderful Life or Muppets Christmas Carol or something. Well, those are my plans for Christmas. I'd love to hear yours. Maybe by the time you listen to this, maybe Christmas Day is over. But no matter what time of year it is, and I mean that, maybe it's January and you're depressed because Christmas is done and gone and been packed away. Send me an email, write me a story, tell me how your Christmas went. I'd love to hear from you. You can always find me at cozychristmaspodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, I love to ramble. I do. Sorry, guys. But with that, let's go ahead and head up to the interview loft with Robert Peterpaul. Welcome to the season finale of season 4 here at A Cozy Christmas Podcast. Now, to help me make this transition today is the spirit of Christmas present himself, or maybe the spirit of Christmas kindness or something. I don't know. But Robert Peterpaul is here. He's the host of the Art of Kindness podcast. He's an actor and just a genuinely nice guy. So, Robert, welcome back to the Cozy Christmas Podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm going to put that on my resume, the spirit of Christmas kindness, or just of Christmas. That was so lovely.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. Well,
I think you own that title, my friend, but okay. I'll share it for now.
Okay, good. I don't know. There's some days I feel more like the Scrooge or the Grinch or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm happy you admit that because we all have those days,
Yep. We do. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it just takes, attitude adjustment or something, and you think, all right, I can be better. I can do better here.
Yes, or a friend, clinking chains together to get you back on track.
There you are. Well, maybe you're my Jacob Marley then. I don't know.
Well, here we go. I don't know if he has an accent. Probably. Yeah, he does, right?
He might. British. Yeah, he'd be British.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm so glad to have you back on. I think you were first on back in 2021, I believe. But in any case, your podcast was in its first year and had you on, and here you are a couple years later, you're still going. So
we're still standing, to quote Elton John.
There you go. What I've got some new listeners and folks like that. Why don't you go ahead and give a little introduction about your podcast and who you are?
I'd be delighted to. Thank you for asking. So, hello, listeners. I am Robert Peterpaul. I am the host and creator of the Art of Kindness podcast, which is on the Broadway Podcast Network. But do not be fooled. We have I won't say more than just because Broadway is amazing, but we have all sorts of guests. And the whole idea is that we spotlight people working in the entertainment industry who use their platform to give back and make the world a better place. And I try and make sure that lovely listeners leave each episode with tangible kindness tips. So something specific that people can do every day to try and make the world a little bit brighter.
What inspired you to start this podcast to begin with?
It was many things. Art, as you know, you are the art of Christmas. I think it started on one hand with my childhood, as most things do. I won't go too deep. Don't worry. I was born in 19. No, I, growing up, experienced sort of extreme acts of kindness when my brother was diagnosed with cancer. And then throughout his journey, and unfortunately, when he ended up passing away, the community really surrounded us and enveloped us with love and kindness. And they organized meal trains with people to come over and bring us dinner. My brother had a lot of movie stars and people he looked up to sending him letters when he was in the hospital sick. And so there were just a lot of really lovely acts of kindness that specifically struck me when they were coming from the arts and people in entertainment. Flash
Mm.
forward on the other end, when I started to work in the entertainment industry, I experienced maybe the other side of kindness, sort of the lack of it sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
or how it can be used to, I guess, manipulate. And all this was kind of cooking in my brain during the pandemic, right before we talked on
Mm-hmm.
on your podcast. I was working as an entertainment news reporter, and I was just really dismayed about all the negative news. There was such an onslaught during that time because it was a dark time and we were all huddled up in our homes,
Mm-hmm.
wishing that Christmas would save us. And it was interesting because I saw that while people were really clicking these salacious sort of negative headlines, there was also data that proved people love reading about really positive things like celebrity baby news, or see this celebrity get married, or so and so buys their mom a house. The
Mm.
Rock bought his mom a house, and that was an article that did so well. People loved reading it. So I had that information in my head, and again, I think this was all cooking. And then the timer went off in the middle of the night. I woke up and I thought, the Art of Kindness podcast. And then the next day, I literally Googled how to start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my wife I was doing it, and she was like, "Here we go, another project." But when I really get my mind on something, I have to do it, when I feel that
Mm-hmm.
passion. And yeah, so it was basically just out of necessity, I think, to put more positive news into the world.
Mm. I mean, there's a lot of similarity as to why I started the Cozy Christmas podcast. Other than, it was a pandemic and we were bored of, sitting at home. But
Mm.
I, there was just so much negativity in the world. And I thought part of the motivation behind it was, yeah, I like Christmas, but I chose Christmas because a lot of people were turning to it, but it's something that I find to be a very positive time of year. And
Mhm.
so I'm able to use that to, we have fun. I read stories and talk to people and all that, but I underline it all. I want there to be a message of positivity and goodness and kindness that goes out as well, because we really need to hear that. even
Mhm.
still years later, we're
We
still in need of
do.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll ever not be in need of it.
Well,
And
that's true. Yeah.
thank you for doing that. I mean, it really is such a positive, joyful podcast to listen to. I remember my wife first listened when I was on it, which was very supportive of her,
Mm-hmm.
but she was just beaming from ear to ear. And then she kept listening. She listened to our friend Sarah Joy, and every time she listened, she would just say, "This really is just so cozy." And cozy is one of our favorite words. So it is the highest compliment she can give.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's, it means a lot. It's, well, and as an actor performer, that when you see yourself accomplishing the goals you set out to do, it's just,
Mhm.
it's encouraging, it keeps you motivated to keep going. So,
Oh, well,
yeah,
yes, keep going. Listening to you is like a warm blanket. I feel like I'm sipping on hot cocoa every time I tune in.
I've had some, reviewers leave about how cozy and comforting they find it. And a few have said, don't take it the wrong way, but I fall asleep while I'm listening. It's just so cozy. And I laugh because I fall asleep listening to it while I'm editing. I'm just like, oh, this is nice. Wait, no, wake up,
Oh,
wake
that's
up.
good. Well, here's the thing. If you're sleeping right now, wake up.
Okay,
Wake
that's right.
up.
Well, I've got my coffee. I made it a little extra strong, so
Oh, good.
we're ready to go. Yeah,
Yeah, we can stumble out of bed and tumble into the kitchen.
that's right. And I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but on your podcast, when you in the introduction, even before the episode starts, you always have your greeting that says, I'm so glad that you're here. And that little phrase has really taken on a deep meaning for me, that I appreciate hearing that from somebody, even though it's a pre-recorded thing and you're talking to a vast audience, but it's just hearing a voice of somebody telling you, I'm glad that you're here, whether it's here listening or you're just here on planet Earth, it's good to hear. So,
oh, thank you. No, I really appreciate that, because when I recorded that, and I recently re-recorded it to try and update my audio from when I first recorded the intro after a couple of years, I was picturing people. I mean, I'm speaking to people because I really am just so overjoyed and thankful that anyone tunes into my podcast. But on a deeper level, I'm grateful that the person listening is alive and committing to something positive, because if you're there in that moment, you're committing to kindness, and you're surviving, in this world that can be really hard. So I'm glad that touches you. That means a lot. And hearing you say that reminds me that maybe when I write it down and I can make my own mug of hot cocoa, I can write on it, I'm so glad you're here, HEAR. Ah, see what I did there? It's a podcast. But
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Oh boy, we've got $1 million ideas here. I mean, we
do.
Yeah,
business people, please give us a ring.
That's right. I will podcast for Christmas cookies. So I come cheap.
Oh no, that is not cheap. There's a lot of love baked into those cookies.
Yes. In fact, my wife is downstairs baking some cookies right now. So,
what kind?
Let's see. She's got a bunch she's going to be doing, but
wow.
There's something called chocolate crinkles. The sugar cookie. Well, I think actually they're eggnog sugar cookies, which are
wow, next level.
Yes, yeah. I just made some gingerbread cookies the other day, and we've already almost eaten all of them. So
we had those last night. Our friend bought over some gingerbread cookies, or brought over. She did buy them. I always do that wrong. My wife gets on me about it. But we enjoyed some. We had a little Christmas movie night, which was really fun. And as you're saying that, I feel like a podcast just talking about Christmas cookies and them being baked. I mean, that's magic. We're capturing your wife's magic right now. I feel like I'm there. Save me some.
Okay, you bet. One day maybe podcasts will have the ability to add, smell-o-vision or something. You can smell the fresh baked cookies. Yeah.
From your mouth to Santa's ears. Come on.
That's right. Yeah. So talking a little bit more about your podcast and talking about kindness and like I said, it's just it's very genuine discussions that you've had over the last couple of years. What is your personal definition of kindness? And I was just wondering, has it changed at all since you've started the podcast and have heard other people's views of kindness and kindness tips? Has that changed at all for you?
Yes, that's an excellent question. When I first started the podcast and realized that I would be asking people what their definition of kindness is, I thought I should really know mine. And I'm glad I thought that, because eventually some of the guests started to turn the table when they realized that they were being put in that, I guess, quote unquote, hot seat with that deep question. And so originally I was defining it as using your time on this earth to make your own or someone else's day a little bit brighter. But now, after all these episodes and really learning from so many guests, I've realized that, first of all, kindness is personal. I mean, over 100 episodes in, nobody's had the same definition, which is really cool. But what I've seen is that the through line of them all is love. So kindness is love. But to add to that, I think kindness is choosing love over fear in any given moment. So there is a saying, a deeply rooted philosophical saying, I believe. I can't ever find who actually first coined this, but that there are only two emotions. I don't know if you've heard that. Well, I guess in life, there are only really two emotions. So any emotion you're feeling, whether it's excitement or feeling nervous in the moment, you can boil down to either love or fear. And it's interesting because nervous and excited, I guess I chose those two for a reason,
Hmm.
are similar feelings in the body. But if you boil it down, being nervous is probably acting out of fear. Whereas if you choose excitement, you're acting out of love. So I think if just throughout the day, even right now, let's say as you're listening to this, you're nervous because someone's walking towards you and you're listening on your walk and it's a stranger and you don't know if you should wave and say hello and you just feel like that's too vulnerable. Well, you're acting out of fear. And if you can
Hmm.
choose love, then maybe you can look up and just give them a little wave. And that's a connection that I guarantee will change your day, will change their day, and probably have a ripple effect. They're more likely to then wave to somebody else. So I think that's now my definition of kindness, just choosing love over fear.
Boy, that's a whole podcast episode content right there.
I know I did ramble a little bit.
No, just that thought of choosing
Oh,
love over fear. I see a lot of conflict, in our world today, and like, how would these things be different if we could choose love versus fear?
mm-hmm,
Looking at A Christmas Carol, and I think a lot of what
mm-hmm,
motivates Scrooge at first is fear. He probably grew up a in poverty or a very hard upbringing, as we get some revealing of his backstory. And so he's almost afraid, afraid of being poor, afraid of being vulnerable.
mm-hmm.
And then at the by the end of the story, spoiler alert here if you're like the one person who doesn't know the story, but he
I don't.
changes. Oh, okay.
No, I do. Of course I do.
Yeah. It's he changes, and he decides, I think, to operate out of love for his, fellow humans that he's on that journey with, to say, wait, I have the resources to help someone in need. Why am I hoarding it for myself? I need to share
Yeah,
that and seek their best. And I think that's
you're so right.
a powerful example of what you were just talking about.
That's such a wonderful example because you're right. It does end with him choosing love. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he's giddy, he's dancing, he's singing, he's hugging Tiny Tim. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's a reason why that story has kind of stood the test of time and why it even sort of gets modern takes with, there's Spirited with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, and
Mm-hmm.
there's sort of all Scrooged and all these different retellings of that same story because it is a theme and a struggle, unfortunately, that still exists today. And I guess it can be really hard for someone like Scrooge or the Grinch even
Mm-hmm.
to choose love when you're afraid to love. And so you're living in that state of fear. It's almost like, how can I get to love? What's the bridge if I'm afraid? If I'm living in fear and then I'm also afraid of choosing the other thing. And I guess in those moments, it's important to sort of ask yourself why and then let people in, because I think that's how these stories sort of change, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
in A Christmas Carol, in The Grinch, it's when they start to sort of let people in and connect with others that we have a story and it moves forward. The Grinch is suddenly having a great time at the Christmas festival.
Mm-hmm.
It's a yeah, it's the importance of human connection. And that's one of the reasons I love Christmas, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
everybody is choosing love, I think, at this time of year, or trying to, at the stores, everybody says happy holidays. They greet you with a smile.
Yeah.
Everybody's just really trying extra hard to be in the Christmas spirit, which I think is choosing love.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, for some reason at this time of year when you don't, it seems like the arguments are more intense, and the
Mhm.
feelings and the emotions are more in contrast. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because it's that time where that feeling really comes to. I don't know it. What I'm getting, I can picture what I'm trying to say here, but
I
it's
know what you're
like,
trying to
yeah,
say.
yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, it's like well, you bring up something too that I don't want to ignore, which is that the holidays are, or is, I guess I don't know which one would be correct now. I can't even speak. It's a time of duality. And so I think
Mm.
if we can also recognize that it's not the most wonderful time of the year for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and some people it is, but it also isn't. We all have stressful situations during the holidays. There might be one family member that we're nervous to see at a party, or, we might not have enough money to get everybody the gifts we want. I mean, there's all sorts of things. And I think just recognizing that and not skating over it, to use a Christmas metaphor,
Mhm.
is important. So I think you were getting a little bit towards that, which is that, we can't all walk around holly jolly all the time, but
Right.
it's, I guess, important that we don't live in a space of being a permanent Scrooge every day, because then
Right.
you're shutting people out and you might have ghosts hunting you down. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. But hopefully they would be coming for your good
Oh,
anyway.
yes. Or hopefully they'd be sitting on a giant pile of food and just give you a big feast.
There you
Like,
are.
do you have a favorite ghost out of the, well, okay. People say there's three, but there's actually four.
There are. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good on you. Yeah. Well, I love Scrooge's scenes with Jacob Marley. It's so intense. But
Mhm.
my favorite of the Christmas spirits is the Ghost of Christmas Present. It's just his whole joyful personality, the way he's so giving, especially like to the poor.
Mhm.
Scrooge says that stuff that he sprinkles on their food and everything, the Christmas magic, whatever you call it, and says, why do you give it to the poor more than others? And he said, because the poor, that's the ones who need it the most. They
Mm.
need that. But I like his just larger than life joy about Christmas. And it also has some of the best scenes in the whole book, with the whole Cratchit Christmas family Christmas scene, and then towards the end, when Scrooge is realizing that he's talking about Tiny Tim and the two children, ignorance and want. He says, "Is there anyone to help them?" And then the ghost repeats Scrooge's own words back on him, and it's from a story perspective, it's just brilliantly done. How
Mhm.
he calls back Scrooge's earlier words of anger, and Scrooge is just cut by his own words, and he's just devastated because
Mhm.
he realizes what, like, he's been able to put a face to to the problem. It's not just nebulous poverty, or poor people. Like, this is my employer's, or my employee's son. I've seen
Mhm.
Tiny Tim now, and I see these two children, ignorance and want, and I'm seeing the impact that ignorance and need have on people. And then he hears his own callous words for what they are, and it's just like it breaks him.
Mm.
And it's such a powerful scene. So there's a lot. If, well, as an actor, you would just relish to have scenes like that.
The
To
brilliance of Dickens. I actually
yeah.
did play Bob Cratchit, fun fact,
Oh,
and
fun.
a few others in a radio version of A Christmas Carol that is streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And that was a really great time. And I think it also speaks to the fact that, it's a timeless tale and such a wonderful story when just listening to it is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Just hearing everybody take on the different voices. And I know you'll share and read stories on here. It
Mm-hmm.
it really is just such a wonderfully written show. And I find with Dickens story, I find with Dickens, during the pandemic, we went back. I was sort of in a mini book club with my nanny, my grandma, who I
Uh-huh.
love, shout out. And we were reading Dickens. And I mean, once you get into the rhythm of his words, I mean, yes, if you're used to sort of the pop fiction that we read now, which is all really fun too,
Mm-hmm.
it might take you a second to get into Dickens, but once you're in there, you do realize, like you're saying, just the brilliance of his writing. And I find that with Great Expectations. I found that with The Old Curiosity Shop. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, with A Christmas Carol, one of his most famous works. So now I'm on a Dickens kick, but I
All
know you're a
right.
book lover too. So I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. His stories and novels are, I mean, he's my absolute favorite writer by far. And I actually tell people, if where do I start with Dickens? I will tell them, start with a Christmas Carol.
Mm.
You're like, oh, that's a Christmas story, but I'm like, oh, but it's so much more. it's
Yeah.
and it's well written, and it's has the benefit of so many people are familiar with at least the very basics of the story, that it can help when
Mhm.
you're, like you said, dealing with that language barrier. Because I mean, this year the book turns 180 years old,
Oh, wow.
So, it's
180 degrees.
yeah, it's been around for a while. So there's going to be archaic language and references you might not get, but it's a good access into Dickens, I think.
Yes. And maybe I'm just a nerd, but I think that's fun. I love
Uh-huh.
coming across a word or a phrase that I'm not familiar with. I find with fiction now, I really am just like speeding through it because it's such a fast paced, propulsive read.
Hmm.
But then when I go back and read stories like that, I really take my time. And our neighbors probably are like, what is going on over there? Because every second I'm like, hey, Google, what does this mean? And my Google Home will tell me the definition, or my wife, who knows certainly more literary terms than I do. But I
Yeah.
think that that's such an exciting thing to sort of find these gems. It's like a treasure trove of language from the past.
It was really hard for me to get into that at first. I mean, and I started as a teenager trying to tackle Great Expectations, and I'm liking it, but I'm like, this is so hard.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What really got me, I had heard the Patrick Stewart's audio version. He did like a one man play of A Christmas Carol, and so
Mhm.
there's this. It's somewhat edited from the book, but he has a recording, and I came across that, and I'm like, oh, this is Captain Picard reading the story. Okay, I got to hear this, And but yeah, that was kind of got me into it more and helped me to understand it. Just hearing it performed, you know, it was just the
Yeah,
right
and
time. Yeah.
that's sort of what I try to do with my podcast too, is having guests that maybe people love and will say, "Oh, I love this person," and then they
Mhm.
tune in for that, like you did for Patrick Stewart, and then they walk away really thinking about kindness and maybe loving the show and wanting to focus on more positive things in their life. So I guess it speaks to the power of humanity and, like
Mhm.
you were saying before, making things personal.
Right. Which, to go full circle here,
Let's do it.
this is what was motivating Dickens to write A Christmas Carol. Is he in other books like Oliver Twist, I know is one, and others where he wants to make a story about a problem personal. So oh, I hear about the poor people, that's nice, but then I'll read Oliver Twist, and spend 400 pages in his point of view, and be
Mhm.
realized, wait, this boy could have been me, and look at the
Yeah.
trauma he's gone through. Or books like David Copperfield, or others where he's especially trying to write about an agenda. What was the other? Hard Times was another one about.
Mhm.
I guess Nicholas Nickleby too. The conditions of some of the schools at the time, and he wrote to
Mm.
expose that because they were just horrible, horrible conditions.
Mm.
And the power of story is such that
Oh yeah.
you can put it in the story, and then it moves people to action.
No, I couldn't agree more. The power of storytelling and of books.
Yep. Wow, we're already half an hour in, and I hardly asked you any questions, but
I'm
but
having a great time.
I know, yeah, we are solving the world's problems here. So
Yeah,
that's
we're down a book. We're in some book aisle in a library, way down on a tangent.
yeah.
It's great.
Well, and I wanted to also take a few minutes here just to reflect on this past year, as it's always a bittersweet time to come to an end of a year. But looking back over, what is the maybe the kindest thing that's happened to you this past year?
That's such a great thing to reflect on. I try and think about that daily, weekly, if I can.
Mm,
And what's frustrating is that if you don't think about it often, it can be hard to really pinpoint, although there's kindness happening all around us every day.
mm-hmm,
I mean, even you talking about your wife's cookies before and speaking highly of her, or me talking about my wonderful wife, they might not hear it, but that's sort of an act of kindness.
mm-hmm,
So, to answer your question, I think one of the kindest things, I was lucky to experience a lot of kindness, but one of the kindest things to happen to me this year did involve my wife. I can't stop talking about her, everybody, the one and only Cassie. For my birthday this year, she had a surprise for me.
mm-hmm,
And it was a surprise she was teasing and really making me curious about. And she said, I just need about an hour or two to set up, but you can't go into your office. And I thought, huh, that's intriguing. And so she had that hour. We needed to schedule a time to do it. We got it all done. And or she got it all done. And then she said, come into the office. So I walk into the office, and this is a shared office work from home situation. I have one corner, she has the other. But when I walked in, it was all turned around, and my desk was in the middle of the room. There was a chair on either side. Two computers were set up, two microphones were set up. And I was like, what is going on? I forgot we had a second microphone.
Uh-huh.
It turns out she surprised me for my birthday with a podcast episode that she made celebrating me and the work I've done. Which, if you know me, you wouldn't think. I don't want to listen to my own voice. So, I mean, she really does know me.
Uh,
She interviewed two really great friends who are on theme for my podcast. They're working in the arts and also making the world a better place, and had them talk about me, working with me, share some thoughts on kindness. And then as I sat there and listened to it, she recorded my reactions. And then she turned the tables and interviewed me. And then she put it all together and edited it. And so I released it, and it's on my podcast feed, and a lot of people really enjoyed it, which is wonderful.
mm-hmm.
But the fact that she spent so much time sort of making a documentary, almost just celebrating what I'm passionate about, that was so kind to me. It was really special. So that
Yeah.
one stands out.
That's so neat because what she gives in that is time, which is so
Yes.
valuable. It's I saw a commercial recently about a flower company, and everyone's getting flowers and they're acting like it's this biggest present they've ever received.
Mhm.
Obviously it's a commercial, but
Yeah.
I got thinking like, man, but those flowers are going to be dead in a few days,
You're right. My wife says never get me flowers, so I get her
Yeah.
candy instead. But with flowers, you reminded me another act of kindness, which
Uh-huh.
was unfortunately, my pop, my grandfather, who I love so much, passed away this past summer when I was in a production of Beauty and the Beast. I think it was the summer. I can't even tell time anymore. It
Mm.
might not have been. And speaking of flowers, I was at the wake, and I had just walked away from the casket and was kind of a mess. And I looked to my left, and there was a beautiful flower arrangement from the company of Beauty and the Beast at the theater I
Mm.
was doing it at. And it was just such a surprise. And immediately on every petal, I saw all of their faces. I felt so much love. So, I mean, these tangible things are acts of kindness too. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just, like you're saying, all about the timing, and either you're
Yeah.
giving someone your time or you're meeting them in a time when they really need you.
Right. Right. And it's, not even so much being the flowers, but the time and thought they really sounds like a cliche, that it's the thought that counts, but hey, they thought of me and they took some time to order this for me just to remind me that they're with me. And I mean, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the consideration. And considering that, I know we're wrapping up your season. So I have to ask
Mhm.
you, what was the kindest thing that happened to you all year, my friend?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
It's a
Well,
big question.
it is. It is. And actually I've been trying to think about this, and I mean, there are, so if we want to talk about our spouses here, so many ways my wife has just shown kindness to me on a daily basis, just putting up with me,
Oh, I feel that.
Let's see, we celebrated 23 years of marriage this year.
Congratulations.
After Christmas, we're going to go away for a couple days to out to eastern Iowa. There's a town that is full of bookstores. There's like 4 or 5 in this little town, and
Wow.
so we're gonna go out there, take a couple days, go
Little
bookstore.
town. Just kidding. Of East Iowa. Well,
Yeah.
I think you need to document this, and that could be like a mini podcast series. You and your wife on this book hunt.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. Especially if we were looking for a specific book, Yeah.
That would be
But
cool.
that would, yeah. And just her, I don't know, just her friendship. She's been working at a library. She's working on a master's degree on top of all this, and then she just puts up with my nonsense on a daily basis. That's but then in the podcasting world, there are some other podcasters I've become friends with that have, we don't see each other as competitors. So I don't know what it's like, in the real, quote unquote, real podcast world, but
You are in the real
I
world.
know you're right.
Well, it's all virtual, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. But they're not. We're not trying to one up each other or anything. They're just genuinely kind people that if I have a question about how to do something, they will be more than happy to help walk me through it, as far as like technical stuff goes. And I've been able to have them on a few times. I've been on their show a few times, and we just share, the resources and what little I know about podcasting. These are things that they could be charging for, but
Mm.
they don't. They just say, yeah, come on, or let me help you with that, or this or that. And it's just those little acts of kindness that are really meaningful, and it builds a friendship over
Yes.
this past couple of years. So yeah.
It's such a community. And
Mm-hmm.
you're reminding me too that every act of kindness has a person behind it, or I guess an animal if you have a pet that really comforts you. But there has to be some sort of being behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
there's actual research. I work with a wonderful nonprofit called kindness.org that shows that kindness comes back to you literally. So it's actually scientifically proven to be great for your own mental health, for your own well being. When you perform an act of kindness and someone else receives it, or if you receive an act of kindness, it's the same thing. You get that, I guess, serotonin and whatever in your body that just improves your life. So there's really no reason not to do it.
Right. It's good for your health. Yeah. Okay. So to get off topic again,
Let's go.
do you have any pets in your life?
Do I have any pets? Yes, I do. I've always had pets, which is a very long history. But right now, we have two kitties.
Mm-hmm.
Their names are Winnie and Honey, and they just marked their 1 year gotcha versary. We celebrated their 1 year versary maybe a week or two ago. So
Okay.
I'm officially a cat dad, which is exciting.
Okay. I thought I remember seeing you had some kittens there.
We do.
But yeah, last year about October we got a dog. She was a rescue from the Humane Society.
Oh,
So we named her Pumpkin. She's an Australian Shepherd
love it.
and has like orange and white fur or red and I don't know. It looks orange to me. We got her. We got her in October. So
That's fitting. Pumpkin, I love pumpkin.
yeah, yeah. Oh, she is such a sweetheart. You never know what their background is, when you
Hmm.
get a rescue. But we were just really needing something, as far as, well, kind of like just for our mental health sake, the
Yeah.
people I'd recommend, try getting a pet, and she was just the right fit. I mean, it was a miracle, honestly. And she
Oh,
loves to go on walks, so she's getting to be where she gets me out of the house more, which is good. I've been walking more, which is good. She loves to snuggle. My wife loves to take an afternoon nap if she can, and so Pumpkin just gets right up there and snuggles down with her. And
oh,
uh,
that's
it's
great.
yeah, she's certainly been a highlight of this past year. So
Oh, yeah. They keep
yeah,
things very interesting.
they do. Yeah, and on top of it all, she was well trained too. So we
Oh,
haven't
well,
had to
that's
worry about
definitely a perk.
yeah. But there were some signs that maybe whoever had her last, I don't know if abusive or neglectful at least, and
Oh,
just seeing the change in her behavior since she's come to live with us has been really, I don't want to pat myself on my back here too much, but it's like that's neat,
I give
just
you permission.
okay, but, just showing kindness even to an animal, how it can change their behavior, and she's less reactive towards people now than she was before, and things. And
Mm,
it's, yeah, just so neat. And she's
it
a
is.
sweetie.
Yeah, we're all sentient beings. And I mean, it's similar to going back to Scrooge, it's a
Yeah.
similar thing. We're all shaped by our past experiences. And so you need other people to sometimes break that shell or lift you back up out of the water if you're kind of drowning and not in a good place. So
Hmm.
I'm glad it's so important to rescues animals. Ours are rescues, and
Mm.
they were living on the streets in Georgia. I think we call them our little Southern Belles,
Mm.
and it's important. I mean, animals they
Yeah.
contribute so much to, to the world, and so it's. yeah, it's wonderful to know there's people like you out there that are giving back. You should pat yourself on the back.
Awesome. Well, okay, I've got your permission then.
I'm patting you virtually.
Okay. Yeah, my wife got me a hooded sweatshirt for Christmas last year that says it says Aussie Dad on it, and it has a picture of her face, or kind of a cartoon drawing of Pumpkin's face on it, and I love that sweatshirt.
That's so cute. My wife actually got me, well, I don't think she has for the kittens yet, but we love getting each other these fur baby socks or these
Uh-huh.
these pet socks, and it's the same thing. It's socks with your pet's face on them. We've loved the company. I think we use the same one every time so much. This is not an ad because I can't remember the company's name. We love it so much that for our wedding, I actually got all my groomsmen socks with my face on it. I thought it would be really funny, and it was, and they all wore it, and it was just so silly.
That's
It's
awesome.
mostly for pets, but you can put your own face on it too.
Okay, now I know what I'm going to gift people for Christmas this year.
There you go.
Pair of socks.
Cozy Christmas socks.
Okay, yep, that'll be up in the merch store here soon. Yeah.
I'll take 5%. No, it's a
Yeah.
gift.
Let's see. And then what have been some of the you've received a lot of kindness tips over the last couple of years. What are some that have been you have found to be really really excellent, outstanding that just have stuck with you?
Thank you for asking. I try and really give tangible kindness tips every episode. So each episode ends with me actually giving a kindness tip, quote unquote, of the week. But prior to that, the interviews that I do with different celebrity guests end with me asking them for a tangible kindness tip. So really, you get two per episode, which is, I mean, come on, kind of
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah, 2 for 1. Yeah.
It can be hard to think of them sometimes, to be honest. But one that people have said consistently that I've already mentioned on here, so I'll just kind of skim over it, is smiling at people that you see on the street. If you're in a safe environment, or saying hello to people when you're checking out on the grocery line, just connecting with people is a big one. And just really seeing people is a big one. I think one that I've loved recently that I'll share that is informed by my nanny, who I've only mentioned once so far, which is a record for me. I really think this is so fun. So growing up, every time I would meet my nanny, I would get in her car, or I would meet her at her house or a restaurant. I would always see a little white slip of paper sort of poking out of her bag, or on the dashboard, or on the table when I met her for dinner. And I quickly realized through my sleuthing as I got older that it was a list that had my name at the top, and underneath were all sort of bullet points of things she wanted to ask me about, or things she just wanted to discuss, like the latest New York Times article. So I came to realize that it was kind of a kindness cue card, right? It was my nanny
Mm-hmm.
being curious about me. And I think that's one of the kindest things you can do for people, is to be curious about them. So this time of year, and the reason I share it here with you all today, is filled with opportunities to connect with people. Although we're always running around, there is always the opportunity to stop and just see someone. And so going into your holiday parties, and if the holidays have passed by the time you listen to this, no, they haven't, because you can say Happy New Year for the whole
Mm-hmm.
month of January,
That's
and
right.
there's more holidays around the corner. And I think you could just do this every time you go somewhere. Whether you make a physical list, or just in your head think about the people you're going to be seeing at these parties, or that you're meeting up with to celebrate something. Really think of at least, 1 to 3 things you can ask them about, really specific things. I mean, we all have cheat sheets now, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can log onto Instagram right now, Art, and find some things about you to ask you about. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if going into these, we'll stick with holiday parties because this is the Christmas podcast. Going into Christmas parties, if you can think of at least one question or compliment, or just something specific to say to somebody, that is so kind. It makes them feel seen, and it's a lot deeper of a connection. And I know
Yeah.
we have people at these parties sometimes in our family that we don't always talk to. We kind of just say hello to and move on. But what would happen if you said, "Hey, oh, I saw your daughter just graduated from high school. That's so exciting. How did you guys celebrate?" Or,
Yeah.
"I just saw you were in the Bahamas. What was your favorite part?" It really makes people feel special. And I've come to realize that's part of my grandma's special sauce. It's part of the reason why I love her so much is that she's just so curious and always asks me about myself. And I try and do that in return for
Mm.
her. And I hope you all can do that this season. So that's a little holiday kindness tip.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. Being remembered, it means a
Yes.
lot, you know? We, like well, two of my three kids have been involved in, choir and band and things at their school. And when my daughter especially was in what was it? Elementary choir, they would go to some of the nursing homes and senior centers around to perform. And, um, my daughter would say, "Oh, I don't think we sounded very good." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you should have seen the smiles on everyone's face.
Mhm.
That you took the time to come and sing to them. It meant so much to them."
Yes.
And it's like, "Oh, really? It didn't sound good." She'll say that, like, and it sounded fine. I mean, she she probably picks up a bad habit from me being super critical of myself, but
No.
it's
Self-kindness. It's hard. I mean, sometimes I feel like a phony, to be honest, when I'm recording my introductions to the episodes or my
mhm,
outros, because I can get so down on myself hearing myself in my head, or I can, hear myself mess up a word, or I have like a weird air bubble fly through my mouth while I say a word. I don't know what it is,
mhm,
but I can get so in my head. And I just have to remind myself I'm recording a podcast about kindness. I have to be kind to myself. And
mhm,
it's awareness, right? So if,
mhm,
if you're aware of the fact that maybe you're not so kind to yourself, just sort of sitting with it and asking yourself why and figuring it out, how you can do better. And it's always a work in progress, but
mhm.
it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
something that we should strive for, I think, because you deserve it.
right, right. Well, thank you. I like to joke with myself that this podcast is kind of my own personal therapy time too. So thank you for being my therapist here.
That'll be $150. No.
Oh, it's in the mail.
I
Yeah.
don't accept insurance. Yeah, no. Uh, it, well, I'm not qualified. I'm an
I got
armchair,
it.
or I guess I'm a rolly chair expert. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'm in
That's,
a
yeah.
rolly chair.
We're all amateurs here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things, unexpected joys of podcasting have been, whether on this one or on my book podcast, it's, hearing people's journeys and just finding inspiration in their stories, whether it's a story they've actually written or the story that they're living. It's just, I love to hear it. I love to hear about people's lives, and that inspires me. So
Hmm.
so I kind of joke that, this is my therapy here. You guys are going to inspire me to, get up and go after my dreams or
Oh, I
whatever it might
understand that
be.
completely. Every
Yeah.
time I finish recording an episode with a guest, I have that feeling of being inspired, even if I'm sort of having an off day and
Hmm.
thinking, oh, I forgot I scheduled this and I have to set up the mic and all this stuff, which I don't usually feel that because of a guest. It's mostly because of me, I guess, being lazy. By the time I finish recording, I am so happy to just have talked with another human. And that's something you don't need a podcast to do. Reminder out there, you can call somebody, text somebody, and get that feeling. And I think
Hmm.
during the Christmas season, especially, it's an important reminder just to reach out and make sure we're connecting with others. So,
Hmm. Yeah, maybe that's a challenge my listeners can make for themselves. Get a plate of
yeah,
cookies and reach out to someone.
a plate of cookies and reach out. Or this was another kindness tip I loved. Every
Mm,
time somebody crosses your mind, this might sound really simple, but how many people cross your mind in a day? We get these memory flashes. Take the extra second to actually text that person.
mm-hmm,
It might seem weird and out of the blue, but every time I've done it, and I have an example of doing it recently with my cousin who was pregnant. I just randomly said, "Hey, thinking of you, how are you doing?" Every time the person has said, "Oh, you don't know how much it means to hear from you. You don't know how much I needed to hear that today.
mm-hmm,
I'm actually not feeling well. Can I call you?" You know, it always is met with such love. So That would be a good challenge. And if, well, you were going to say add Christmas cookies. If you want
Hmm.
to walk on over to my house, that's
Just, I'll be there in about, if I'm walking, it could take a while, but I'm coming. Yeah.
the Christmas cookies. We had a one time a neighbor next to us whose dog would not stop barking like 24/7.
Hmm.
This is a hard scenario, which I won't go into too much because we work from home and we could hear it. And I felt bad for the dog and it was loud. And we left them Christmas cookies with a note. And they did take them in. And I think it helped.
We enjoy hearing your dog every day.
Yeah, I don't know if I said I work from home. I'm happy to walk your dog. And yeah, I won't
Yeah.
go into the full details, I guess, but it did help from me eating extra Christmas cookies that I didn't need to eat because I'd already eaten too many. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've got to wrap up here in about 10 minutes or so because I got to pick up my daughter from school.
oh yes,
But
me too. And I appreciate that
yeah,
reminder.
no problem. But what what plans do you have for Christmas this year that you're looking forward to?
Well, this year we are embarking in my family's big Italian tradition on Christmas Eve, which is the seven fishes.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be going to my Nona's with my large, fun, and really loving family and doing the seven fishes tradition, which is pretty much just to have seven different types of fish present during the dinner. And that'll be fun. Christmas Eve has always been really big for my family. And the next day, we will wake up at my dad's house on Christmas morning, do a little gift exchange, some cinnamon buns for breakfast,
Mm.
be pretty cozy. And to be transparent with you, Christmas, I love Christmas. I love the holidays. And it can also be stressful for me because of many reasons. But the first being that my parents are divorced. So it's always, the holidays are always hard.
Mm-hmm.
So to balance that out this year, we're seeing my mom and my nanny, her mom, the Saturday before Christmas Eve. So we're doing that too. We're going to have a nice celebration with them. And I think it's a good thing to try and
Mm-hmm.
do is, you don't always have to do one side of the family or the other. You can try and have multiple celebrations. And like you, I love Christmas. So I'm happy to string these things out like beautiful lights.
Yep.
And
Yep.
hopefully this year it's successful. I think, I think it
Good.
will be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds really lovely. Yeah, we're gonna have
Yeah, what are you doing? You're the Christmas king.
right. Well, we're staying home, which I love to do, and my
Same.
oldest son is in college, and he's kind of living on his own now, but he'll be home. He'll be home for Christmas, and
Sing it.
yeah, and so yeah, all my kids will be home, and then my wife's parents are coming for a visit, like the day after or two, and then we'll have a second Christmas with them. Um, but yeah, we try to keep Christmas Day itself as low key as possible. Where
Yes, it's a pajama day.
oh, absolutely, and we'll read books or watch movies or just play a game together. Um, Eat insane amounts of food, just all day.
As you should.
Yep, yep. If we like to say, if you're not feeling sick by nighttime, it's you did something wrong. So
Oh yeah, I think even by a crisp like 4:30 or 5 p.m. in the pajamas, just in that, when your body almost feels like it was just on an airplane, you have that kind of
yeah,
full swollen body and you're just on the couch under a blanket
yep.
watching movies for the rest of the night. I think that's wonderful.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really a day we have tried since we first got married because I have a similar um, background with my parents are divorced and I've got family living all over the United States, and so travel has never really been possible, as
Mhm.
or affordable in that case either. But we just really wanted to let's just make Christmas Day itself, a family day, to make it. We're going to center it around ourselves as a family. We're not trying to be selfish or anything. We will be happy to, before or after, but Christmas Day itself has almost become, dare I say, a sacred day where we have
Mm.
no plans. We're going nowhere. We're staying home. We're going to spend time with each other. And we're going to try to do this for as long as we can. And I realize as my kids get older, they're going to start their own families and have their own traditions, and that's good and healthy and all that, but there's some bittersweetness to it as well.
Bittersweet chocolate.
Yep.
That's magical, though. That's a great way to spend Christmas.
Yeah. It's, and then, my wife and I will joke that, there's that, I think it's in, Iceland, there's this tradition of giving books and chocolate to each other on Christmas Eve, and you spend the day reading and eating chocolate. And so that's our retirement plan right now.
I love that. Oh, wow. What a plan. Thank you for telling me that. I want to do that.
Once all the kids move out, and if we can't spend Christmas with them, we'll just, give each other books and chocolate and spend the day doing what we really like.
That's wonderful. I wonder if we should do that tonight. My wife and I try and always have, because when we were long distance and before we were married, we were still splitting holidays. So we would always try and have our own Christmas. And then her birthday's the 27th. So her birthday would be right around the corner. And we still always try and have our own mini Christmas moment. And so maybe that will be it, chocolate and books. Because we do always stuff stockings with we get each other at least a book each. So I like that.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think
I'm going to take that.
If I can pronounce it, I think it's called Jolabokaflod.
Oh.
So I did an episode on it a year or two ago, and I learned how to pronounce it, or I tried to anyway, but it's been a while. But yeah, it's this tradition where you get a stack of books and chocolate and just don't know that, it's one of those things I saw floating around Facebook. So the authenticity, varies, but
well, listen, it's authentic to me. It resonates and it sounds like heaven.
Oh, it sure does, yeah. So that's maybe some of our retirement plan right now. But when you have kids at home, you don't always get those times to be, quiet and restful all day like you need to. So.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, enjoy it.
Those
are my favorite memories, is being at home with our, little main family unit and just sitting in pajamas and watching movies. I think that's magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here, let's go ahead and wrap up, and we'll put a pretty little bow on this season of the podcast. But Robert, anything you want to promote here that you have coming up in this new year that maybe you're looking forward to doing?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. I'm looking forward to hopefully committing to my goals and my resolutions. I would love if your listeners checked out the Art of Kindness podcast. We just celebrated 100th episodes with the one and only Carol Burnett, which was really exciting.
That was neat. Yeah.
It was so unbelievable. Please, I'm still pinching myself. Please go listen everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're interested, no pressure at all. But there's pressure. No, there's not. Please tune in. And I'm actually producing a new podcast coming out, so that'll be shared soon. I don't think I can say quite yet.
Okay.
But that's coming. And then, hopefully lots more stuff on the acting front now that the strike is over, which is really wonderful. So I would love to, connect with you all on social media at Rob Peterpaul.
Yep.
And all the things.
Yeah. If you want positivity in your social media accounts, follow the Art of Kindness podcast. I've got other names too I can share. Folks are interested. It's kind of fun because I hear about social media being such a depressing place, which it can be. Don't get me wrong, but some of it is who you choose to follow. So
yes, be really intentional about it.
Yep. So like my Instagram has just full of Christmas stuff all the time. It's great.
That's amazing. That's like me with fall. I do follow a lot of fall sort of October-y accounts, and Christmas I should add in there too. There is that one guy, I think his name is KJ. He does great Christmas decorations. I don't know. There are a lot of wonderful ones. I will say you can't go wrong following Dolly Parton if you want a little Christmas magic all year long, because she's, I think, one of the kindest souls out there.
Somebody, sorry, I know we got to go here, but somebody just gave Pumpkin a gift. It was a doggy sweater that they got from Dollywood, and it said raised by Dolly or raised on Dolly, something like that on the back of it.
Oh, can I have it? I'll wear it.
It's a doggy sweater.
She has a new pet line. What
Yeah,
does Dolly not do?
I know.
That's what I want to know. She's
Talented woman.
amazing. She's so talented. And I love her Christmas album. Oh,
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
Albums, I should say now.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Well, Robert, thank you so much for being on today. And folks, if you don't want to be visited by three spirits, go out and listen to his podcast, The Art of Kindness. You won't regret it. It's that boost of positivity you need. Robert, thank you for sharing that with the world.
Oh, thank you for having me, Art. Thank you all for listening. And I wish you a very merry 2024. Congratulations on season 4.
All right. Thank you. Here's to season 5 coming up soon.
Party of 5.
All right. Well, Robert, you take care, and hey, happy birthday to your wife, Cassie.
Thank you. I will let her know. I'm sure she will really appreciate that. And let your wife know that I'm going to need some pictures of these cookies.
Okay. Got it. All
So if I
right.
can't eat them, I got to see them.
Okay. Well, you take care and
Oh, you too.
have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for everything.
So as I wrap up here, Christmas of 2023, let me read to you the final paragraphs of A Christmas Carol. May we find inspiration from its words. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good, at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes and grins, as have the malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us. Everyone, have a very merriest of Christmases. Take care.